Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist here for another edition of Out Today and What I Missed right here on the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel. I got another 20 albums for you this week, 4 that are out today and 16 that I've missed along the way. For August 1st, 2025, let's get into it. First up, we have Fit for a King with Lonely God. The 8th album from this long-running Texas metalcore band is actually my first foray into the band. I've been familiar with the name and I've known about them for quite some time, but never actually took the plunge until now, and I must say I am pleasantly surprised. While the sound is more mainstream than I originally imagined, there are plenty of moments that hit that metalcore side that makes everything come together, and I also imagine that they were a lot heavier back in the day, and now they're kind of focusing on the mainstream side, though I could be wrong. But also, don't get me wrong, this is very much of the 2020s metalcore side that has been focusing on that mainstream side, and it does remind me of bands like I Prevail, Currents, Bury Tomorrow, Bleed From Within, and more. It's a nice change of pace for someone of my normal taste in music, and it shows what could be done in this style. The production is as pristine as you would imagine for this type of music, and the songwriting is refined, and they left just the best possible riffs and songs that the band could bring to the table. While this won't be for everyone, especially not everyone that checks out my list, this is for those that want to see what the mainstream metal sound is up to in 2025. There's a lot to like here, and hey, you might like it as well. Next up, we have Chaodots with Every Rock, Every Half-Truth Under a Reason. The 11th album from Toby Driver and a slew of members from Moths of the Well is keeping true to what I would expect from Toby Driver, which is not having a single idea what he's going to be doing next. Just in Chaodot, you have albums that sound like a continuation of Moths of the Well, which was a very experimental avant-garde metal. You have double disc concept albums, you have Doom albums, you have albums that sound like the Blade Runner soundtrack, and so much more. It is very hard to recommend Chaodot to someone who's just looking for a particular sound, as the band kinda does it all. With the latest album, there's no traditional songwriting going on here. It hits levels of both extremes and minimalist territories that is a pure wonder to behold. When it's minimal, there is such a haunting atmosphere that's going on, it feels like a demon is getting ready to possess your soul. When the album gets to more extremes, it is a sonic force that can obliterate your sound system if you're not careful. And when the album gets a little more, I guess what you could call normal, the band is doing what I would expect from them for their left to the left of the center approach. 3/5 of the album really takes that minimal approach, and there's barely any drums or percussion on it. And the other 2/5 does have drums and percussion, but they are not used in a way that you would normally hear in rock and metal. It's more kind of like soundtrack to like a movie or a film score than it does anything else. Simply put, this album is not for everybody and may push the boundaries of what your tolerance for these particular styles of heavy music can be. I mean, anything Toby Driver does is not going to be for everybody, and you gotta be in a particular niche to really truly appreciate it. But if you want to hear Toby Driver explore another new direction that he hasn't really explored like this with this particular Chaodot album, give this one a proper listen. It's really nice to hear him continue on to show his repertoire in so many different ways, and I can't wait to see what's next. Now we have Nosis with Genosis, and I just got what he was going for here. The former frontman of Crystal Lake is back with his debut album under his new band, and I'm enjoying what's going on here. It can hit some of the heaviest moments of metalcore, hardcore, deathcore, this kind of stuff you'd expect, but then come these emotional moments that were always my favorite moments whenever I've heard Crystal Lake, but it's also done in a different variety. Then there's these new layers of experimentation that feels kind of off the wall, kind of wonky, but they work in context for the rest of the album. It makes for such an intriguing listen from start to finish. The production is, sorry for the pun, crystal clear and punchy, and the songwriting, while it might take a listen or two to be able to grasp everything at hand, when you do, it clicks hard and it works magnificently. I'm not really sure who I could compare this to, as this isn't really in my wheelhouse, but Rio did some amazing stuff in Crystal Lake, and I do hear a lot of that going on, but I also hear moments of Deftones, Stray from the Path, even some Linkin Park, and if you can dig what's going on with that with Nosis, well, I know it's not for everyone, it could be for you. And finally, for brand new albums out today that I'm covering, we have Moths with Septum. The third album from this Puerto Rican progressive band is quite the trip. Every time that you think you know where a particular song is going, they will turn on the dime and go into a completely different direction. The music covers so many genres as well, from the aforementioned progressive to doom to death metal to jazz, and somehow makes it all cohesive. The music matches up to the concept of the album, which is, of course, the 7 Deadly Sins. The production feels raw and real, given that really really early day bareness feel behind it all, like Red Album, Blue Record, if you know what I'm talking about. And the songwriting is off the charts with how it can be so diverse, but still make everything click. I hear as much Mastodon and the aforementioned bareness as I do King Crimson, as I do Opeth or even Porcupine Tree. Like I said, it is quite the trip, and for those who dare to hear something different on this side of prog, you really should give Moths your proper attention and see if they're for you. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting with a band name and an album title that I know I'm going to butcher, and I'm so sorry for getting this wrong, Anfuglier with A Cullabeth. Did I get that close? I really hope I did. The sophomore album and the first album in 17 years from this New England now duo is one of the finest displays of symphonic black metal I've heard in 2025 so far. The music is majestic and it gives you this otherworldly feel behind it all, going deep into the realms of Tolkien's Silmarillion and showing what it's all about. The songs are epic in length, ranging from almost 12 minutes at its shortest to almost 22 minutes at its longest. And these don't feel like traditional metal songs. I mean, you're not hearing verse, chorus, repeats on this one. Despite the obvious black metal tendencies that's going on, this is written much more like a symphony piece and full-on orchestration. You could easily get lost in this album, close your eyes, and feel like you've been transported right into Middle-earth. The production is somehow both raw and grand at the same time, which really puzzles me how that works, but I love the final product. And the songwriting, again, I can't get over its rich, rewarding listening experience. This is for those that have wanted a grand symphonic take on Tolkien's work, and I think that they really nailed it to an absolute T. If you want an album that is the living embodiment of the word grand, check out what this band has to offer. Now we have Anger Machine with Human Error. The sophomore album from this thrash metal band from the Netherlands is an ugly look in the mirror to human society, and honestly, we kinda need that right now. While there are enough tongue-in-cheek moments to not make you completely feel depressed, there's enough going on here with its lyrical content of the state of the world that will just make you realize the mess that we are all in, and how almost all of us kinda contribute to it on a daily basis. If there is an upside to all of this, the music is perfect thrash from beginning to end. It hits all the bits that I love about the genre and it doesn't let up. Whether it's full guns blazing or a mid-tempo stomper, Anger Machine knows how to write for the song and spread their message of how truly terrible all of us are. The production is exactly what it needs to be to make the music stand out even more. If you want a thrash album that more than lives up to the band name and sheds light on the album title, make sure you check out the brand new album from Anger Machine. Now we have what I'm pretty sure I'm going to get wrong, but I'm going to try all the different ways that I think it could be pronounced. Baal. It's something like that. B-A''A-L. But the fine line between heaven and here. The sophomore album from this UK band is my first foray into the band, but I am blown away. This hits so many levels of emotion musically and hits you even harder with the vocal delivery. Mixing their blend of atmospheric black metal and post-metal fused together to create that sound of post-black, but it's also so much more than that. The music delivery is devastating, whether it goes into the full black metal fury or it scales things back and lets the notes shine in their sludgy and post-metal sides. The production is in that right sweet spot of raw and clean, and the songwriting just grips you from beginning to end. If you want a band that knows how to channel their inner Death Heaven, Rollo Tomasi, Inter Arma, and even Cult of Luna, you need to see what these guys are all about. Now we have Crimson Shadows with Whispers of War. The long-awaited third album from this Canadian melodeath and power metal band is back after 9 years with Whispers of War, and it's easily their finest work. Everything you love about this combination of genres is here, and they somehow got even heavier and more melodic at the same time. The production is stellar, and everyone shines throughout the entire album. There's no major shifts in the sound, it's exactly what you'd expect the band to be with their melodeath and power metal tendencies, but it's just that the intensity has been turned up to 11, and the melodies have become even more sing-along moments than ever before, and arguably some of the most you'll hear in 2025. If you enjoy the likes of Brimir, Children of Bodom, Kalma, and especially Early Day Dragon Force, you are doing yourself a disservice by missing out on this album any further. Give this a spin right now. Now we got Arabore with Infinitus Somnium. The epic sophomore album from this UK band is a fantastic display of genre bending, but never truly losing their identity. With only 3 songs and coming in at almost 43 minutes, I wasn't kidding when I called this one epic. In fact, there's 3 of them on here. It explores so many styles and genres while still maintaining that progressive death metal and tech death sound that were on display on their debut album, but even more grand. You'll have your moments that sound like The Faceless, Inanimate Existence, Fallujah, but you'll also have these moments that really remind you of the melodic sides of Obscura, Cynic, Black Crown Initiate that really tie everything together and makes everything shine. The production is a bit on the raw side, but it still hits you as a tech death album should, and the songwriting, while overwhelming for some, is right in my wheelhouse for this style. If you want a spectacular look at what can be achieved by blending tech death and progressive death metal together, Arabore has put out potentially the best example of it in 2025. Now we have Xfamon with Odyssey of Fate. The debut album from this Cali band is a wonderful display of the fun side of power metal, and honestly we kinda need that right now in 2025. Never dipping below the mid-tempo mark, and if they do, it's very short on this album. The album is a full-on assault of power metal from its twin guitar attack, double bass frenzies, and the soaring vocals. The musicianship on this album is jaw-dropping, and the songs do exactly what you want them to in this particular style of power metal. Match all of that together with a production style that is clear but just raw enough, and you have a winning power metal album in 2025. This may go under the radar for some, but don't let that happen to you if you are a power metal fan. Check this one out and listen to the glory that is Xfamon. Now we have Crave Witch with their self-titled album. The self-titled album from this Oregon trio hits so very hard in just the right ways. Their raw produced blend of black and thrash hits both genres perfectly and adds a sinister flair to everything. Again, the production is quite raw on this one, kind of feeling like a black metal demo from like 1992, but that also adds to the black magic of this album. It hits so many levels of intensity and the atmosphere that you just wouldn't get if this had a better production style. 10 songs and almost 44 minutes makes this a blast of black and thrash worth every single second. If you enjoy the likes of Hybrid Nightmares, Skeleton Witch, Haunted Funeral, and Destroyer 666, Crave Witch is made for you. Now we have Joviaak with Autofiction Part 1, Shards. I've been meaning to cover this one for a few months now, and I finally got to it, but I'm so happy to be able to do it now. The third album from this Finnish prog band came out back in May, but it is more than worthy of your attention now, combining my favorite elements of prog while adding these really cool elements of like melodic rock, AOR, and even some more poppy moments to create a sound that knows when to go prog and when to go prog metal. Imagine Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, Giant, Haken, and Pain of Salvation all rolled into one band, and you have a good idea of what Joviaak is going for here. Also add in their own inspirations and you have an imaginative prog album that feels like it can be for anyone, from the most try-hard prog fan that like I used to be, to the most fun-going 80s melodic rock fan that I'm slowly becoming, and everyone in between. If this sounds like it might hit for you, Joviaak can make it big. So let's try to make that happen, shall we? Up now we have Late Night Savior with Rebirth. The third album from this band out of Utah caught my attention with this album, but upon listening to the previous works, this does kind of feel like a rebirth for the band. No pun intended, but maybe. While the core sound of the band is fully intact, it's that alternative metal sound with just the right kind of poppy moments, those sucker punchy hooks, and definitely made for mainstream radio. The band has gotten heavier with their sound and even grander in their production. This is easily their best produced album to date. I can hear elements of bands like Evans Blue, Breaking Benjamin, and other bands that remind me of the mid-2000s, but it does have enough of the 2025 modern rock radio sound that is going on so well. I appreciate that the band has gotten heavier in their tones and their style, but they still make hooky moments, and it makes them even more memorable that way. I wish more bands in the FM rock variety would take this approach. I'd probably listen to my local rock station if they did that, but I digress. For a predominantly metal guy, I am so intrigued by what this album can bring, and I can't get enough of it. Maybe you'll have the same reaction? Why don't you give this one a shot? Now we have Morasme with Fell. The fourth album from the Spanish band hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm all here for it. A sound that combines the best of sludge, post, hardcore, even some black metal to make for an album that knows how to show off their aggressive side and when to let the emotions soak through. The production hits just at the right spot, and the songs, they hit no matter where they are, whether it's on the shorter side or they're making a 9-minute epic. I can hear bands like Nosis, Cult of Luna, Year of No Light throughout all of this, but they also had their own herbs and spices to create their own sound, and it's a wonderful thing to hear. If you need a post-album like this right now, something that can really hit near the hardcore black metal side of things but know when to pull it back, check out Morasme and see what they're all about. Next up, we have My Last Promise with A Funeral of Being. And a bit of a trigger warning here, this is DSBM. If you know the initials, you know what I'm talking about. The debut album from this Ukrainian one-woman DSBM band has all of the feels behind it, and it never lets up with the emotions. This is a tearjerker of an album, and in 2025, that can be some of the most cathartic stuff that you could need. You hear the pain in every single note, from the cleans, the screams, and the music behind it all. It's hard to recommend this genre because of the subject matter at hand, but when you're someone suffering from mental health demons like myself, this can be a release that you need to hear to feel okay. As bonkers as that might sound to someone who doesn't understand, but trust me, there are those of us like that out there. The production is a bit on the better side for the genre, which I was kind of surprised by because a lot of it not really good on the production side, but this is really nice. And the songwriting couldn't feel more inspired, and unfortunately, being in the Ukraine right now, there's a lot to be depressed about. But if you enjoy the likes of Sylvain, Alilion, and Shining Sweden, see if My Last Promise does anything for you. Now we have Alilion with The Jaunt. The debut album from this UK prog band featuring past and present members of Darkest Hour, Brave Ride, and Vortex has created such an earnest take on classic progressive metal, but it's also updated enough for the 21st century to include the heavier ends of the progressive death metal side to create a sound that really feels like it's kind of tailor-made for my taste. The production feels sonically pleasing to the ears, and the musicianship on hand is beyond stellar. In what feels like a grand mix of Dream Theater, Opeth, Gojira, and Haken, this defines what prog metal can and potentially should be in 2025. This is not an album to sleep on. Seriously, if you love the dark side of progressive metal, progressive death metal, you need to see what all of that is about with Alilion. Next up, we have Roulette with Go. Having been around for almost 40 years now, and having such a hard time with all of it, it is really hard to be able to maintain that momentum of how you originally started as. Thankfully, in 2025, there have been many examples in the melodic rock and AOR realms that have proven that you can be as good as you ever were, if not better. This is definitely the case here with Roulette, a Swedish band who's just put out their sophomore album, and their first since 2019. Yeah, you heard that right. The band has been around for 40 years, but they've only had 2 albums in their discography, and it's only several years apart. This is some of the most earnest and audibly pleasing melodic rock I've heard all year. This is clearly a band that has been through the ringer through all the ups and downs of being in a band, trying to make things work, but still, it wasn't until the tail end of the 2010s where they finally got their debut album out, and with Go, the band still has that wonderful charm to their music, and you can hear that passion that they had even in the past from their singles and their compilation albums still in this music. But everything is just updated enough to tug at the right heartstrings and become earworms for days. The production is outstanding and the songs are worth spinning over and over again. We have been rewarded handsomely in 2025 when it comes to melodic rock and AOR, and Roulette has given us another slab of everything that you want it to be in this style. Seriously, give this one a listen and enjoy. Next up is Split Chain with Motion Blur, and it's not very often, especially someone like me who's already covered almost 650 albums this year, that you discover a new genre, and that genre for me is Dreamo. It is a blend of shoegaze and emo, and as odd as it sounds to someone with my taste, this is something I didn't know I needed, but I really love it actually. From the 90s alternative production to the mix of grunge, shoegaze, dream pop, emo, and alternative metal, this hits me in a way I never would have expected. It feels like Deftones, Mew, and Paleskin got together to create a new but familiar sound. I still need to digest it a little bit more, but every time that I put it on, it hits me in all the right ways, and it puts me in this trance-like state that I really enjoy. If you want to hear something like this, especially for a debut album, it's an incredible thing to witness basically the birth of a new genre, at least to me, and just having it overwhelm you like this on a debut album. And if you want to hear something like that, you need to see what Split Chain is all about. Now we have Twilight Aura with Believe. The third album in 30 years from this Brazilian progressive power metal band is a welcome thing to see in 2025. Combining what makes progressive power metal sound work so very well, especially with that Brazilian style that you'll see what I'm getting at in a second, done in such earnest and it's still fun of real creative endeavors is no easy thing to achieve, but that's exactly what happened here. The album is also filled with so many guest spots from the likes of Jeff Scott Soto, Felipe of Angra, and even Andre Matos has vocals that appear on this album from an original Skyscraper demo. In fact, they take that song and rework it into a Twilight Aura song. The production is a bit raw, but it still hits hard, and it feels like it came right out in 1995 in the best way possible. The songs on hand are quite inspired, and it feels like a nostalgia trip, but I'm happy to take that trip. I'm so happy with this album. I love that it's come together this way, and it's an amazing experience from beginning to end. If you love your 90s Brazilian progressive power metal, basically Angra, check out what Twilight Aura is all about. And finally today we have Virtual Symmetry with Veils of Illumination. The fourth album from the Swiss prog metal band is one endearing album, and it is filled with as much jaw-dropping music as it does emotion. The production is top-notch and the musicianship on display from everyone involved is staggering. It reminds me of everything that I love about 90s progressive metal in one tight package. Like, seriously, it does feel like a mix of early day Dream Theater and modern day Circus Maximus in the best of ways. I'll even throw some Seventh Wonder in there as well. Even with having almost a 20.5-minute epic on this album, it doesn't feel like there's a single wasted second on this album at all. That is my kind of prog through and through, and I simply can't get enough of this one. If you want this kind of prog metal, you need to hear Virtual Symmetry. You'll be so glad that you did. There you go, folks, another 20 albums down for Out Today and What I Missed, and 660 albums that I've covered in 2025 so far. Should I have done the extra 6 and just gone for that try-hard 666 true cult fashion? Yeah, maybe. Oh well. But what do you think? Did you hear some good albums? Did you hear some bad albums? Anything that intrigues you? Anything you're going to stay away from? Anything that I missed? Please let me know down below. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Getting ever closer to 1900 subscribers. Now I'd really love to hit that pretty soon. We're almost there. But make sure to come back next week for August 8th, 2025 as we hit another edition of Out Today and What I Missed. And until then, for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, this is Josh Runquist saying, embrace the skullet.